If you're a beginner golfer, or maybe you're in your first year to 18 months of the game, or maybe you're just someone who's completely lost it and you can't find your gamer back, the most important thing is to be able to strike the golf ball. For a newer golfer, finding the centre of the club more consistently is the best way to start to elevate your progress and start to have more enjoyment, because you get the ball flights and the shots that you desire. There's two things that have to happen, non-negotiables. The first thing that has to happen, the bottom of the golf club, where it says, on this case, number 7, or wherever the loft is written, that part of the club has to hit the ground. Non-negotiable. We can't hit solid golf shots if the golf club doesn't hit the ground. We can if we tee it up, but when the ball is on the ground, it's non-negotiable. And very often for a newer golfer, that goes against what they think. You know, they stand there and they're swinging a club at what they feel is pretty high speed, and they would sort of think, well, if the club hit the ground, it's going to damage the club, or it's going to take a chunk out of the earth, or it's actually going to break the club. So sometimes they actually stand there and they try to miss the ground, and they have a pretty high success rate of doing that. But when you miss the ground, you just top it along the ground. So the first thing we do, club has to hit the ground. And then, well, it's no good if it's here, is it? It's no good if the club hits the ground there, and it's no good if it's over here. So once it's going to hit the ground, the second thing that has to be in place is it has to be pretty much where the ball is. What we're going to do, we're going to take a setup, and the key thing for these exercises is your wrists have to be what I call fluid. That means there has to be some movement in those wrists, and you can see that there's some movement there. I can, hold on with a fair bit of force with these 3 fingers, and I probably want to do that as I start to increase my speed, but the wrists need to be fluid. To ensure that they are, take your grip, stand up normally, and start to make some rotations with your body back and through. You should find that as you do that, there is a natural lag between the club head and your hands. So if my grip is good and my wrists are nice and fluid, as I rotate back and through, there's a natural lag in that golf club. If I lock my wrists, it all moves at the same pace. So that's your first little drill to make sure those wrists are nice and fluid. What you're then going to do is you're going to take your setup, and you're very simply going to move the club head above your hands in the backswing. And then what you're going to do is you're going to let gravity cause it to land, hit the ground. Gravity's on your side. That club wants to go down and hit the ground. Now, hopefully that looks pretty simple. I go back and I let the club hit the ground. Looks easy. It won't be for many of you. If you are that golfer who's already built up some scar tissue of hitting the ground is bad and I've got to miss the ground, that's hard, because as the club starts to go down, you'll instinctively kind of pull away, or you'll yank the club up. So our first little exercise is literally just let the club hit the ground. Now, obviously, you don't want to be doing this in the middle of a fairway or in really soft area, but driving range mat is perfect because you're not going to do any damage. That's not going to be controlling the wear. The wear is really important. I'm going to take 2 golf balls, and I'm going to set my golf club right between those 2 balls. And what I want to do now is I want to use my body rotation and a shift of weight to control the wear. Because if I make my backswing and get the club head above my hands, if I leave my body where it is, the club will hit the ground back here somewhere. That's fine. What I need to do is, as that club is moving down, I need to be shifting my weight, rotating my body so that it lands more in line with these balls. So I'm now going to be going up, letting the club hit the ground, but I'm using my body to control the wear. And I am doing this with very little grip pressure. Trust me, my hands are on this club incredibly lightly. You can start to see where that is. It's always starting about where those balls are, and it's continuing after. Nothing changes when we step into the ball. Club above my hands, hit the ground, control the wear. And there's my little strike. Ball's gone 20, 30 yards. That's how I'd like it to start. You can always build up the speed. Now, there's one really key thing, which I don't think ever gets talked about enough. It could be the one thing that makes the big difference. Hand-eye coordination is important. Everyone's got it. Some have got more than others, but we've all got it. We need that in golf. We're trying to hit an object on the ground, the club's moving around our body at high speed. We need a bit of hand-eye coordination. So when I'm doing my little practice drills, what am I looking at? Well, I'm looking at the ground. And what am I trying to land on the ground? Well, the bottom of my club. So I'm seeing the ground and I'm trying to get the bottom of my golf club to land at that point that I'm looking at. Kind of makes sense. We've just done that drill. We've just run through how to do it. So bottom of the club lands on the ground that I'm looking at. That's important. What happens when we bring the golf ball in? What do we look at? Top of the ball. I'm looking at those top few dimples. Well, my hand-eye coordination is going to kick in and I'm going to get the bottom of my club to land and make contact with the top of the ball. Because that's what I just did in that drill. What I was looking at, I got the golf club to land there. If I look at the top of the ball, I'm going to get the club to land there. We cannot look at the top of the ball. It's going to be a backward step for you. So when you have got the ball there, you have to be solely focused on the ground. Let that club land on the ground. Don't look at the top of the golf ball because that is only going to send you backwards and you're going to start topping it. So that's how we strike the golf ball. Now there's a couple of things in setup which will help. We're going to cover those quickly. We want the ball to be just forward of the centre of you. So buttons are a great reference point. Drop those down, ball should be just forward. We want the weight to be slightly onto our lead side. About 55% is great, and we want the feet to be about shoulder width apart. The final thing would be at setup, we want the shaft length slightly forwards. That setup position there, that relationship that we create around the ball is going to make everything that we do far easier. So start here, do those little drills, and suddenly you'll start finding the centre a lot more often.